Oil prices rising and today after President Biden moving to permanently ban new offshore drilling on over 600 million acres of ocean. Now, this would impact the entire East Coast, the eastern Gulf of Mexico, parts of the West Coast along the shores of Washington, Oregon, and California, as well as portions of Alaska's northern Bering Sea. President Biden saying in a statement, quote, drilling off these coasts could cause irreversible damage to places we hold dear and is unnecessary to meet our nation's energy needs. The American Petroleum Institute issuing a statement after this announcement saying, quote, we urge policymakers to use every tool at their disposal to reverse this politically motivated decision and restore a pro-American energy approach to federal leasing. Joining us now, we want to bring in Scott Shelton. He's an energy specialist at United Cap. And Scott, it's great to have you here on Yahoo Finance. So talk to us just about how those insiders within the industry are looking at this. And when you take a look at President-elect Trump, the possibility here that he could try and reverse this, what the odds are, and what ultimately this looks like here for the oil and gas industry going forward.
Well, I think, first of all, most of the U.S. production gains that we're seeing are more onshore and less offshore. And certainly offshore is a component of it, but those projects are 6 to 8 years out. So my clients and myself, we're more focused on onshore production, and we don't think it's really going to affect that. Longer term, of course, if this stays intact, it inhibits our ability to grow, but peak demand is not far away with EVs, and there's plenty of spare capacity out of OPEC. So the concern really isn't there.
How likely that it stays intact?
It's a good question. I think if Trump has his way, it won't be intact. The question is, can he make that change? And that's something that we're currently working on to see if that's a possibility, but it's not clear to us.
Yeah, and the case out there has been that it could potentially be harder for President-elect Trump to unwind this going forward. Scott, when you take a look at where we are trading right now for crude, we have been relatively range bound here. As you look ahead to 2025, what do you see? Are there any further catalysts on the horizon that could get us back to some of these levels that we haven't seen for quite some months?
To the upside, I would think the catalyst would come out of Iran and Russia. We have seen a slowing of Russian exports to the extent where some refiners in Asia, like India, are all of a sudden being forced to access cargoes from Asia rather from Russia. It seems like the net effect of the sanctions that Biden put on shipping are starting to have an effect. And certainly the way that Trump talks with regards to Iran and playing tougher is certainly going to be something that we're going to have to watch pretty closely, because Iran supplies a lot of oil to China, I think about 1.3 million barrels a day. So if all of a sudden we can find a way to slow that down, China's going to be forced to go elsewhere, which will have a positive effect on balances.
How do you square that with the drill, baby drill of it all, of the incoming administration and Trump's desire to keep energy as cheap as possible? How much does that weigh on your broader outlook for oil?
Well, we don't really think that there is going to be a significant change on the supply side in Iran. I think if anything, maybe it'll be a couple 100,000 barrels a day. With regards to Russia, it's a wait and see, but the amount of exports they've been able to do under these sanctions has been pretty significant, and we continue to think that. And we think that non-OPEC supply is going to be up about 1.5 million barrels a day, and we also think that demand is not going to be over 1 million barrels a day. So regardless of what happens with Russia and Iran, as long as it's within our parameters, we actually think that it's going to be a stock building year all the way through the end of the year. And it's going to accelerate in the spring.